Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Tanner O'Brien. I'm a senior partner here at Action Coach in Central Texas. Today I'm sitting down with my guest, Marvina Case, who is the CEO of SwetSpot. So excited to be jumping in, having some conversation about business, about leadership, entrepreneurship, kind of all that fun realm and all the ups and downs that I'm sure come along with that journey. So Marvina, first and foremost, thank you so much for taking some time to be here with me today. Why don't we just start with, for the audience, let's start with a little bit of background on the business itself. Tell us a little bit about what SwetSpot does, and then we can kind of dive a little bit more into kind of your background, how it got started, things like that. But first and foremost, tell us a little bit about the business and what y'all do.
Thanks so much, Tanner. SweetSpot is a company that helps federal contractors as well as government agencies fulfill the needs of the government, whether it's federal, state, local, um, municipalities, or tribal. We assist with completing government contracts. We work with artificial intelligence in order to make the process quicker, faster, better. And what I do is I act as the glue, the sweet spot. So basically, I connect people, processes, and technology for the greater good.
I love that. So take us a little bit deeper into maybe how like a high level of example of kind of what that looks like for those that are like that sounds really cool, but I'm not quite sure what all that means yet. Kind of maybe walk us through just a little bit of an example of kind of what that looks like as you kind of take on a client and kind of go through that process.
What that looks like is the federal government loves to compartmentalize and separate different opportunities. It's like going to the doctor and you having a symptom and they give you a pill to deal with that symptom. It doesn't address the underlying cause of the disease. It doesn't fix the problem. So what I do is I look at the opportunities that say the federal government might put out on sam.gov from the same agency. And I noticed that they're compartmentalized and nobody is communicating and they're not creating solutions. They're just dealing with one small problem, which doesn't fix the situation. As an American taxpayer, I want to save Americans money and not pay taxes for things that are unnecessary. Why have eight different companies doing something when you can have one parent company that's controlling the process and ensuring the quality? So I take different organizations that offer different parts of a solution and I combine them all into one cohesive cure for whatever the problem or disease is. So I basically have joint ventures and I work to solve problems that the federal, state, local governments might have by creating one solution as opposed to many in one contractor that gives them everything that they need in one place, your one-stop shop.
Oh, I absolutely love that analogy. I think that really helps kind of, bring it all together. So I appreciate you kind of going through that. How did this business come about? Tell us a little bit about kind of your background, what led up to starting this company, but give us a little bit of history on where this all generated from.
It actually started when I lost my basketball scholarship in college. And what happened was I had to figure out a way in order to pay for school. So I started my own business and I used to always cater. So, Sweet Spot, sweets. And after I graduated, I went on to work for companies like Intel, Ally Signal, which now is called Boeing, Dell Federal, Dell Corporation, the computer company. And what I saw is there was so much of a disconnect with actually fixing problems. And so, again, treating the symptom as opposed to curing the disease. So I said, you know what? There has to be a sweet spot for this, hence the name of the company. Let's figure out what the sweet spot is. And the sweet spot is acting as the glue between people, processes, and technology. So that's how the company came about. I learned that no one communicates, systems don't talk to each other, and everything is siloed. I deal with operations. Sales is a process, communication is a process, technology, again, is a process. None of those work if you don't have the right human factor controlling it. But you have to realize what the problem is and you have to address the root cause. So that's where the sweet spot is, and that's where the name of the company came from. So I started doing that and fixing problems. And lo and behold, the government likes when you fix problems. They like when you save them money. So it became very popular, and I decided to work with the best of the best. So I would pick the best part of a solution and then put all the pieces together. So I basically complete puzzles. And that is how we make solutions that actually work for the real world of government.
Hmm. So, as CEO of this business, as you've continued to grow it over the last number of years, what does it mean, or what's it look like to be a CEO of this company, and how has that maybe changed as the company's continued to grow?
Well, it's changed a lot. And the reason being is as you work, you uncover more problems, you uncover better solutions, and you improve. So I'm constantly learning. You can learn as much from the janitor as you can from the CEO. And I think that is the main thing that I would say is the most important thing that I've learned as a CEO is to look at everything from every angle and take everyone's advice because you don't know what you don't know. And you have to be willing to realize that you don't know it and be willing to always be learning. So that's what I would say has been the major changes within the company. It's not looking at yourself as the head of it, but looking at yourself as a core logic behind it and a central part. But every piece of the wheel, every chain of the fence is important.
And how many team members are you guys up to these days?
It varies. As a business owner, especially in today's economy, I realize that keeping people on full time is not necessarily the best thing to do. So we have fractional employees, we have full time employees for essential roles, but I've got it down to five full time employees and about 45 1099 employees, which allows them the ability to work for other companies to make more money and to basically grow their own business. That's another change that I would say that has happened in my philosophy. I want to create generational wealth for everyone. The federal government spends approximately $800 billion a year in spending. That's a lot of money, and it should be going to Americans, but a lot of our contractors are not American citizens. Not that I have anything against foreign
Hmm.
companies, but you need to fix your foundation before you go out and help build someone else's house. So let's help Americans get off welfare. Let's help Americans get some generational wealth. Let's build our society first so that we can go show other societies how to do it. So that's the main change that has happened. I look at things more circular than what I even was before. So I'm trying to teach people how to recession proof their industry and create generational wealth for the good of our nation because the more money we have coming in, the more improvements we can have. And in my mind, a great society is measured by someone who plants a tree, a seed that turns into a tree that will shield people that they will never see. So it's building your future. And that's what my main goal is now.
What are some of the ways that you help kind of go towards that mission, especially with whether it be some of the employees that you work with, the fractional employees? What are some ways that you've kind of helped, foster that mentality and that next phase of what kind of wealth and their own creation can be from a personal foundational level?
Yes, the goal is to have them own their own companies, to be their own boss, and to build their own doors. You don't have to wait for someone to open the door for you. You should build your own. The American dream is only a dream for those that can't realize the reality. So that's the main thing that I want to clarify.
That's fantastic. I absolutely love that, and just am excited to hear that that is kind of part of the mission that you continue to serve. I've had the pleasure to meet a handful of other business owners that kind of have that same mentality, and they continue to develop their team members and individuals from kind of that same piece. And I'm excited to see more leaders within companies continue to do that. So thank you for continuing to move that forward here. Let's talk a little bit about kind of what makes the business special and some of the things that y'all do. I always like to just ask the general question, and I think we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but just to super clarify for the audience, the client base that you serve, like who is the target market, so to say. The way I like to phrase is like, if I'm in the audience, how would I know that I'm a really good fit for the services that y'all provide? Or I might know somebody that I should help kind of make a connection to or refer over for what y'all do.
Sure, the best way to answer that is what do you do for a living or what do you want to do for a living? The federal, state, local governments need everything that your house needs, plus more. So if you are a caterer, if you have locks, if you're a technology person, if you're a cleaner, if you write books, if you do paintings, if you are a cannabis business person, believe it or not, the government needs you. And there are opportunities for that. Anybody that has a business, who has the heart to start a business, who wants to serve this nation by being a government contractor is the ideal person. If you want to have generational wealth for your family, government contracting is probably one of the few ways to do it and not to do it hard. I like to work smarter, not harder. So I'm looking for intelligent people who have innovative ideas who just don't know how to implement them. I will help you every step of the way because it's going to help me. No matter how you look at it, I like to say it's a circle of life because if I can teach you how to be successful and you can save our government money, that in turn is going to lower my taxes because they won't need to take as many taxes from me because they're saving money in other ways. So it just helps society. Anybody who wants to help society, who has a good idea and a good product or service, I will work with you in order to get your products and services into one of my solutions that I'll sell to the federal government.
Beautiful. That is fantastic. I think that what you just said there, I think insanely clarified kind of how this all fits together, especially for the audience. So I really appreciate you kind of going through and talking through that. Which kind of leads to the question: are there others that do what you all do, or do you still kind of have what's the competitive landscape look like? I guess maybe that's just the simplest question on this. Are there others that kind of compete with you in the market with the services that you provide?
I'm not an arrogant person, but I'm an honest person. There are other companies that teach people how to be government contractors. There are other companies who will show you how to write a proposal or will do it for you. There are no other companies, to my knowledge, that offer a guarantee when they work with you. I
Mm,
guarantee that if you sign up to be a client of one of my other companies called Set Aside Queen, which basically teaches people how to be a government contractor, I guarantee that you will have a 5x return on your investment. Why? Because I have a 92.7% success rate, which means I win 9 out of 10 times because I took the time to create a process that makes sense. Again, it goes back to operations, that foundation, laying it down correctly and figuring out how to bake that cake. You know the ingredients, but if you don't put them in at the right time, if they're not the right temperature and you don't know how to address them, that cake is going to either be uh, soupy in the middle or it's going to fall or it's not going to taste great. I figured out the recipe. I just need you to listen and follow it.
mm. So when you look at marketing, I always love to ask a few questions around it because it's one of those areas that it's important for just about every business out there, but isn't always the simplest, easiest one, especially for those newer in business, unless there's a huge background in marketing. But when you look at how you get in front of the clients that you want to work with, when you look at how you get in front of these individuals that you can help serve and connect with government contracts and things like that. What have you found to be successful when it comes to getting that message across and getting in front of them? Are there things that you've tried in the past you're like, this just has not worked, at least not for us? And these are areas that have worked really well, or here's a big misstep that I took when it comes to marketing. But what has kind of been your philosophy and how have you approached that in your business?
Honesty is the best policy. So that's basically how I go about things. I tell them the truth. Some people get into government contracting and make nothing. Some people get into government contracting and make $53,000 a week. It's all going to be up to you and how you do. That is the main thing that happens. So it really just depends on what you do. I explain to them the ins and out of government contracting and I tell them the benefits and I also give them the drawbacks. I tell them that I learned this by failure. You're going to make mistakes. The benefit of working with someone like me is the fact that those mistakes I've most likely already made in my 27 years. So I can help you avoid those pitfalls. And you might be able to help me with some ideas that I never even really thought of. So we're working together, we're building off of each other, and we're taking the information that we have in order to build a solution that's going to benefit everyone.
I love that. And what have been some ways that you actually get in front of those leads? So you have those conversations and help kind of take that next step, but how do you get in front of them in the first place?
Word of mouth. What people don't realize, or maybe they do and they just don't think about it at the same level, is people buy from people. If you saw that one of your friends went from a $75,000 a year job to buying a $2 million house, would you not be interested in learning how they did that? They talk, they communicate. And there's nothing easier to push along and connect or sell, whatever word you want to use, than someone who has seen a real world example of your success. Someone who has basically made it and can share with their colleagues on how they made it and who helped them get there. So most of my clients are from word of mouth, the people that I bring on, or it's from people watching my videos on LinkedIn, my videos on programs like yours, or my videos that are on YouTube or Facebook, and they reach out and ask a question. I am happy to help and mentor anyone. A lot of people will only work with people if they're making a profit. I'm happy to help anyone. And you can ask any connection if they have a question on government contracting and they don't have the funds to sign up with one of my programs. I'm happy to do that. If they have the best quality product or service and I'm working on a solution for federal, state, and local governments, I'll bring them in because at the end of the day, I'm an American and I want to save my country money and make sure that my best analogy is if you ever been on the highway or a road that you always take and they tear it up and it's added to your commute and you're just like, oh, another 15-minute delay because this road is down. It happens all the time in Austin, Texas, where I'm headquartered. And finally they fix it, and you're like, yes, I don't have to get up as early. And then 3 to 6 weeks later, they dig it back up again. And you're like, what happened? It's because they didn't put in the best products and services, they didn't use the best company. So it's costing taxpayers more money to do things twice. My goal is to do it right the first time and to do it at the best price.
Beautiful. So when you look at the next 3 to 5 years, as you continue to grow the business, continue to live out the mission that you're striving towards, kind of what's the vision? Where do you see the business going? How do you see your role shifting and changing as you kind of look forward to the next 3 to 5 years?
That is a very good question. And it's a very difficult question for me to answer, not because I don't know where I want to go, but I don't know where society is going. I don't know where our government is going. A lot will depend on how I go about business with who's at the helm of this nation and what the focus is. I have my fingers, my hands in many different areas. As you know, I own 7 companies and I do everything from customer service to unmanned autonomous systems. So, with that being said, I'm prepared to be successful because I'm diversified. And I also believe in expertise through acquisition. So it's not necessarily what I'll be doing or where the company is going because the process I already have is successful. It's just a matter of I can't tell you what products and services I'll be offering, but I have the ability with how I'm set up to offer whatever is needed in order to continue to grow my business, my colleagues' business, and my partner's business, and also continue to help the government save money. So I'm going up and up. We have had a this year alone, an 800% increase in profit, not revenue. Very big difference. And a lot of people will talk about their revenue, but revenue is revenue. Revenue doesn't mean anything. Profit is what people care about. And we have a 63% profit margin, even going through the pandemic, which is not really a norm for people that do something outside of just software.
That's fantastic, and I'm glad that you made that note because you're right. Sometimes it can get a little lost in the translation when we talk about growth of revenue versus net income. It's like, well, net income is actually the thing that makes everything continue to stick around and have longevity and actually provide for those that are in business. So I appreciate you kind of going through that. Um, Well, I know we've certainly covered kind of a lot of ground in the conversation so far. I'd love to, ask a few kind of rapid fire questions, bring out some, we'll call them wisdom nuggets for the audience here. So as you look back at kind of your journey through creating this business, working through the many other companies that you're a part of, in a few words, what would you say for you has kind of been your key to success?
It's a process I have. Everything for me is a process. Everything is cake. Confidence, attitude, knowledge, and enthusiasm. I have grit. Grit will get you much further than being the smartest person in the room. Grit will get you much further than being the most attractive person in the room. Grit will get you much further than starting at the top and just having to maintain. If you have grit, you will always move ahead. So that passion, that desire, and that grit is what keeps me successful.
I love it. How about advice? If you could leave just one piece of advice for other entrepreneurs or business owners out there, what piece of advice would you want to leave them with today?
Be kind to everyone. Never go into something to rip someone off. It will come back to bite you. And if you always treat people well, you will always have a good reputation and people will always respect you. And respect goes a long way.
Mm. Book recommendations or podcast recommendations. Anything that you've read or listened to recently, or one that kind of stands out in your mind that has either had an impact on you or something like that, but a recommendation that we can give to the audience either on a book or a podcast.
There's only one book that's ever really affected me, and it doesn't matter if you think if it's a great work of fiction or if you believe it to be true. The Bible goes over everything from deceit to love to failure to social unrest to afflictions, and it teaches you a lot. All of my business principles come from the Bible, and I would suggest that people read it. Again, it doesn't matter how you view it, the information is still valid.
That's fantastic. One more rapid fire question before we kind of begin our official wrap up here. And this one's just kind of fun. If you could take a little bit of magic dust and you could sprinkle it all over just one spot in your business, and that's the key. You only get to choose one spot here. Take a little bit of magic dust, sprinkle it over one spot in the business, and you wake up tomorrow, it's like 10 times better than it is today. Where would you choose to put that magic dust?
I would choose to put it on growing people. I just want to see people get successful. So I would plant those seeds of growth because at the end of the day, it's going to affect everyone and it's going to affect everyone positively.
Beautiful. Well, before we get to my final question that I always love to wrap up these conversations on, for those in the audience that want to connect with you, that want to learn a little bit more about SwetSpot, that want to, learn some of the things that you take many of your clients through, where can they go for more information? Where can we send them to take some next steps?
They can call. My number is 512-501-0252. Believe it or not, I actually answer my own phone. They can text. They can also follow me on LinkedIn, which I think is probably the easiest thing for most people to do as people are a little uncomfortable with reaching out. I do a lot of events as well. You can reach me on any medium you feel comfortable with. You will always get a response. I try to make sure that if I can't help you personally, that I have someone else reach out to you because I think it's rude. And my mother raised me better than that.
I love that. And I will put all of the LinkedIn description, phone number, all that kind of stuff in the video description below. But I will highly encourage if you are watching this later on, at minimum, go to LinkedIn, make sure you follow, connect, send a direct message. Say, hey, saw you on the business spotlight. Wanted to make sure I connected. Just say hi. Great conversation. I think it's always important to make those connections, especially from things like this with the business spotlight. But Marvina, as we finish up, I always like to end on this final question, which is simply, what is most inspiring to you today?
The most inspiring thing to me is where you start in life does not determine where you end up. The
Mm.
embrace of courageous action does. And once you understand that, and once you realize that you can come from the poorest city in the worst area and have everything that society says, topical characteristics going against you, and you can still end up creating generational wealth. So you're not stuck where you're at. Your actions do contribute to your success.
I love that. Well, Marvina, I want to say thank you again for taking the time. It's been a pleasure kind of going through this entire process and seeing kind of where you're taking your business and all the wonderful things that are ahead of you and all those that you work with. So I just want to once again say thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Tanner.